First of all, thank you everybody for coming today. Certainly we didn't want to be having this conversation at this time of year. We're all disappointed. This is not what we were trying to do when we started the season. This is on all of us, starting with me. It works its way down to everybody in the organization, and we're disappointed. We're looking forward to evaluating, getting on to the next step, and then bringing us back to being a playoff team going forward here.
Go ahead, questions.
Mike Russo, The Athletic. Paul, just the lack of scoring, how aggravating was it? Have you ever seen a team that struggled so mightily, and how do you go about addressing that this offseason?
Well, it will be. That's why we're going to have meetings here. We're in the early stages of it. I still have confidence that this team is going to be able to score. Certainly, if you want to get deeper into it, we lost an incredible piece of our offense when we lost Matt Dumba. And then having Mikko Koivu go out, who was a balancer, I think could have helped our lineup in scoring stages. I'm really high on the young guys that we've brought in, and I believe that once their comfort zone is here and once they play in a position that they're going to be able to succeed with having some maturity, they're going to be able to score. And certainly it's disappointing that we didn't score this year, and that's going to be addressed.
Go ahead, Jim.
Paul, Jim Rich, Fox 9. Can you explain the changes you've made to your hierarchy and what you're trying to look for in the staff?
Yeah, you know what, with our internal decisions on what we're doing with people, and I want to correct what was reported out there. They were not fired. They were just not renewed, and I want to make that clear because they were really good employees. I want to thank Shep Harder. I want to thank Andrew Thomas, and I want to thank Andrew Burnett, who I've known for an awful long time, for their service here, for their long service here, and for their commitment. It's just when a new general manager comes in, at times there are going to be changes, and these are the changes that are there. And I will keep that internal. I'm not going to make it public as to what we do. I believe that I'm the one that's in the firing line, and you guys should be addressing things to me. We don't need to go into everything that we do internally. That's why I am the hierarchy here, and I'll take the bullets, if you will, for the way that things are handled. But we have a plan. I've got some feelers out there as to people, and no decisions have been made as to their replacements.
Paul, Dave Schwartz from KARE 11 over here. Whether it be through free agency or the draft, what's on the top of your list to address for acquiring this offseason?
Quite a bit, but I don't want to tell you. I don't really think it's fair. We haven't had meetings yet to be able to assess everything. I can tell you that I know that, as Mike has asked, that we need scoring. We're going to try to address that. This team is going to have an awful lot of cap space, which is great. It gives me the flexibility to now look at things. But I'm not just going to spend to spend. I want to make the right decisions here. As a lot of you know, this team was the oldest team in the National Hockey League when we started at the beginning of the season. And significantly, or non-significantly, I think we're 25th now. I'm trying to get us younger, faster, more skilled. That's been publicly said. And that's what I'm going to continue to do, because I believe that that's where the league is going, and that's where the success of us is going to happen when we go forward here.
Paul, Dane Mizutani with the Pioneer Press.
Can't even see. Sorry. Sorry.
It was talked a lot about when you first got hired. It's only going to take tweaks. Do you think it's going to take more than that? Is this a longer process moving forward?
I think that it's a work in progress. I'm trying to do this on the fly without having a rebuild, as a lot of teams refer to it as. But I believe that the changes that we've made, again, when we get this team comfortable and get healthy, and then we see what we truly have here, because as we've seen, it's been a very difficult season to stay healthy at times. And when we mix and match the lineups that I foresee going forward, and then we discuss with our staff, I think we're going to have a very good team here. If you look at the goaltending and the defense that we're going to have, when you add Matt Dumba back into the mix, it really balances things off. We've always been one of the teams in the league that has had great scoring from its back end, and when you can initiate and launch your attack from the back end, I find that that makes most teams successful.
Sarah McClellan from the Star Tribune. Paul, did you get the results that you anticipated after the deadline with the moves? And I guess in hindsight, since it was, the team didn't advance, do you regret them? Do they change anything about your process?
I think we would have been in the same position whether we had made the moves that we did or not. I'm very happy with the young guys that we've brought in. Again, this is a growing process. I think I mentioned that the age was a real big factor here. And there needed to be some change. And that internally, from my standpoint, I saw a team that had been together for an awful long time and had been successful, but hadn't been able to take that next step to take a jump. So for me, to get the likes of the Donatos and the Fialas going forward here, this is going to be a big part of our organization, and they're going to grow with us.
Anybody else?
Bruce, can you talk about what you had to deal with this year, how difficult this was? Like you said, you've never, hardly ever missed the playoffs. And being so positive as you were down the stretch, trying to will this team to believe that they can put it off, how tough a job was this for you down the stretch?
Well, I mean, I think every job in the NHL is tough, but you know what? When we had to grind pretty good, and we attempted at that, and like most every game was close. Even you look at the games we lose that end up being 4-1 or 4-0 or something. There was always 1-0 or 2-1 going into the third period. So we were always there, and then we just didn't have that extra little jump to get the lead. And I think every time we did get the lead, we were pretty successful. But it was getting that lead, and then after a while, you just keep playing from behind. It's going to catch up to you, and I think it did at the end.
Paul, Jared Spurgeon's entering the last year of his contract. How big of a priority will that be this offseason? Maybe get in front of it.
It'll certainly be addressed, Mike, and you see how much of an impact he has on our organization, just like anybody, and he will be certainly addressed as one of our priorities.
Paul, do you think that this can be a playoff team in a year's time? Is that the ambition, or do you expect this to maybe take more time, like you said, kind of retooling on the fly?
Well, let's see what additions I make, but with the team that we have right now getting healthy, yes, I do see us becoming a playoff team. And as I said before, the great part is we've been a cap team here, so I have the ability to add people if it is through free agency or through trades. We have the money to be able to spend up to the cap, and Craig has been great about that in the entire time that he's owned the organization.
Go ahead, Dean. We got a mic for you.
Paul, it's been just a little less than a year since you got hired. Just generally speaking, what's been the hardest part for you in your first year as a GM?
I don't know if I have a hardest part. I think every day is a unique experience, a unique challenge. There's a lot of things that happen that you have to just address. Maybe if I said it, the hardest part is just getting here and getting acclimated to everybody and finding out what their contributions are and what their roles are, and then going forward, seeing where we're going to be.
Paul, just how imperative is this draft? It seems to be one of the most important drafts in a long time in Wild history. And can I ask what PJ's role will be at the draft table?
It's a huge draft for us. Finally, we have almost what I would clarify as a full draft, and we have an extra pick, and that was the way that I kind of constructed it this year. I did not want to trade away picks. This organization has traded away picks for the last 6 years, and that has affected where we are with our development of our prospects, of lack of prospects, and we have to build from within. That is part of my motto. Is part of the reason that I'm here, is that we're going to be able to develop from within. As far as PJ is concerned, he and Darren Yopik are the guys that are going to be running my draft. They have since the leaving of Brent, they have been handling everything, handling our staff, and they will be co-doing it together. And I have lots of confidence in the both of them.
Sarah, go ahead.
Paul, I know Bruce is approaching the final season of his contract. Where are you guys at? Have you talked about an extension?
No, Bruce is my coach next year. I have total confidence in him. You look at his track record for the number of years that he's been an NHL coach. It's amazing. So Bruce is our coach next year. I'm very confident within him. I have not met with Craig about the future of any of our coaches, to be honest with you right now. But right now, Bruce is my coach, and he's going to be the guy that is going to lead this team back to where we want to go.
So you talked at some point about that, I guess?
I'm sure we will, yeah.
Rachel?
Rachel Blount, Star Tribune. Paul, what are your thoughts on the draft this year? What kind of players are available? How deep is it?
First of all, I hope we win the lottery tonight. If we win the lottery, then we're really happy. We'll be doing some handstands. But even where we stand right now, I feel really confident that there's a lot of players out there that we're going to like in that position. I have gone through one draft in my career where I have positionally drafted. We are not doing that here. We know where our deficiencies are, but we also know that the way to handle a draft is to take the best player available. I did it in 2003 in Nashville, thinking that the defenseman that we took would put a franchise on the map, and it did. That was the nice thing. But we're not going to specifically look at a position here. We are looking at the asset.
Sarah?
Paul, are you able to share just what guys we're dealing with now that the season's over, how banged up they were in terms of injuries? Or
Yeah, we had a lot of bang-ups. I guess to clarify, and I've been criticized for this by a lot of you out there as far as injuries are concerned. I am a very protective person with our team, with our players. I've asked you guys specifically if you could refrain from putting specifics out there on players. I've talked to all of our players, in particular the guys that have been injured, and they totally agree with me that it puts them at risk as a player, and it puts them at risk as far as their careers are concerned. And that is why, if you want to call me old school, I am old school. I am a very protected. It's like protecting my children. I'm not going to tell you specifics on anybody at this particular time. I will give you a review of the guys that have had surgeries and things. But I ask you for the future. We've gone through this several times this year, that if you guys could respect my wishes. These are players that have their livelihoods on the line, and it is a mean sport. You can write it how you will. It is a mean sport. Our coaches understand it. We have talked about it internally. We are trying to protect the organization and the outcome of our games, if you will, by keeping these injuries as vague as we can with upper and lower body. I think that is a great term that we can protect our guys with. That being said, you know about Devin, Zach Parisi. He hurt his knee. It has been reported that he had hurt his knee. He will be fine with rest here in the next 4 weeks, I believe. It's just going to more or less be a resting pattern. Mikko, we are confident that he has a chance to be ready at training camp. His recovery, as I think all of you know, his determination is incredible, and it's fun to watch him rehabbing this because he's already, I think, ahead of schedule. What am I missing here that needs to be? Yeah, the other guys. Dumba should be ready for training camp. That would be a really big boost for us. You guys already know what his injury is. The rest of the injuries are realistically just bumps and bruises that will take a couple of weeks, and rest to handle, but there's nothing significant to really report on anybody else.
No surgeries planned for anyone else?
No, we don't have any surgeries that should be out there.
Do you anticipate anyone to go to the World Championships then?
I'm sure that there's going to be some inquiries about some guys. The ones that I have been asked about, the two guys on Canada were asked, and they denied it. I've had two guys, and I'm involved with the U.S. team, that have said no as well. They too are kind of banged up and have family issues here that hopefully will be resolved. I anticipate getting called on some of the European teams, but having it be as late as it is this year, I have not received those yet.
I guess, how will you address the RFAs and the couple UFAs? Where's your thought process on how those will unravel?
We're going to continue to talk about it here today. I've got meetings with the coaches this afternoon after I'm done with some of the interviews. I certainly have interest in having maybe some of the UFAs back in some capacity. The RFAs I'll be dealing with. I already have been dealing with their agents on that going forward. But it's a research thing that we're going to do and find out exactly what their value is.
All RFAs?
Yeah, most likely.
Bruce, Paul talked about it, but if there is no contract extension, just how comfortable are you coaching next year without one?
I really liked it when you guys were asking Paul all the questions. Hey, listen, I just want to coach, and I think it's up to me to help make this team successful, and, you know, whatever happens, happens.
Bruce, can you see, though, I guess a reality where this team is in the playoffs next year? Do you see the gap, I guess,
Well,
at
I
Bridgeable?
always see the positive in it, and knowing that, like, I firmly believed we were going to make it this year, and, you know, I mean, but I firmly believe that, you know, we've got the core that's gonna make it next year for sure. I mean, a lot depends. You talk in August, you look at the lineup and you go, okay, good, this is gonna be really good, but you never know what happens through injuries or what have you. So, but if I'm sitting here right now, I'm going, yeah, looking the way the season went and what the other teams were that made it have gotten. I think if we were a little healthier and we make it an improvement a little bit next year, sure we'll be there.
Can I ask the way the centers are built right now, with obviously if Koivu's back by the start of the season, Stahl, Eriksson Ek, Sturm, where do you see Rask fitting into that? And Paul, can I ask you on Fiala? I mean, do you expect that he's going to improve marketably here and become the player that you really kind of described him as when you acquired him?
We're gonna talk about where everybody fits as we go on here. There is no definitive position that anyone is there. I've told you that Mikko is probable for training camp. So as Bruce was just saying, there's a lot of question marks that come up. You need a full roster in order to be successful. Where guys play will be determined by he and his coaching staff, but we will have suggestions as to where guys play. And for Fiala being a young kid and coming in here and having the chances that he did, I think he was fine. I don't know how many posts he hit, but you probably do. You guys keep all those statistics. But for me, I look how the player plays and how he fits in. I know that Kevin can be much better. I know that Kevin can be an exciting player. I talked about it being a game breaker. I think that got blown out of proportion. I'm talking about a guy that can make the game very hard for the opposition to play against in an offensive capacity. And I know that he will come back and be the player. He needs a full year of training. He certainly was what I would say a beaten dog in the way that he was in Nashville. They didn't have him high up, and he wanted to be high up. And when you're a professional athlete and you don't see that fit, it makes it very difficult. For us, we see him as being high up in our lineup and being a productive player. As we get healthier and we put our pieces in place, we see him getting that much more productive.
Bruce, how fixable, I guess, do you see like the offensive woes? How concerning are they? And I guess how do you grade like a Stahl and a Zucker who had tremendous seasons the year prior and then fell off this year? What's their realistic potential, I guess, moving forward?
Eric went from 28 to 42 goals. I mean, people have off years, and we still believe in both of them. I mean, Zuck, when you talk about hitting posts and having breakaways and missing them, and you know the difference between him making them and missing them was the year difference. And so, I mean, I think he's going to bounce back and have a really good year. I think Eric is going to bounce back. And I mean, we forget that, you know, Eric had 52 points, I think, and because he set the bar high the year before, when we signed him, if he had gotten 22 goals and 52 points, we were going to be ecstatic. But he himself exceeded what we thought he was going to do. And this year, you know, like we had so many numerous line mates for him that I think we never got really into that line where it was a perfect fit, you know. And I think once that happens, I think he'll be knowing his determination, because just when he came here from Carolina and the Rangers that one year, he was sort of like, you know, like everybody was down on him, and he was very determined. And if you know his character, I'm sure this year he's going to be very determined in the summer, especially after getting a new deal, and come back here with a vengeance next year. And it wouldn't surprise me if he's back to where, you know, the 30-goal plateau again next year. I think yeah, I would say if you asked either one of them, they'd say they had off years.
Anything else? Well, Maxie, go ahead.
Do they, when you talk about improvement from young players, does that come between now and training camp, or does that come when they get to training camp and they work with players? I mean, can they do a lot between now and August to get a lot better, or does everybody train the same and it has to just familiarity with other players?
I think it's two things. I think this summer, I mean, the training of all our young players that we acquired, and obviously everybody else, is going to be intense, and they'll be very happy going into, like coming into camp, knowing that A, they have a firm position, and B, how much they played the previous year, and now knowing players. And I think conditioning is going to be a big part of it. And then I just think the maturity of experience is going to be a big factor too. I mean, all these guys that we acquired and everything, they came into a situation where they knew nobody, and they were thrown together with a lot of different line combinations. Now I think the familiarity coming into camp and knowing the people, I think it's going to be a big help for next year.
One more, Jim, you get to wrap it up.
Bruce, do you foresee any changes to your staff this offseason?
We haven't talked about that at all, so I would really not like to talk about it right now, if that's okay. Bad English, but sorry.